Now, could masturbation really demotivate a man to this extent though? Could it really weaken his sexual impulse so much that it stops him from going after real women? Could it really damage his ability to develop his character and ultimately attain a wife? Well, let's talk about it. Every time we do something pleasurable, there's a release of a feel-good chemical compound in our brains called dopamine, represented by the red circles here. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, meaning it carries signals across the spaces between brain cells. Our brains are able to pick up the presence of dopamine through receptors. Receptors are represented here by these green olive shapes. Receptors are like docking stations that dopamine binds to in our brains whenever it's released. The release of feel-good dopamine tells our brain that whatever it just experienced is worth getting more of. When dopamine is released, it sends a signal that says, that was pleasurable, go do that same thing again, go get that same thing again. In this way, dopamine reinforces patterns of behavior. It's like when you're training a dog. If you give them a tasty treat every time they behave the right way, the dopamine release trains them to connect those behaviors with the pleasure. They're then motivated to respond the same way again in the future. Very simply then, dopamine is what motivates us. It's responsible for motivating us to go searching for rewards in anticipation that those rewards will feel good. Let's talk about some real-world examples here. The first time you ate chocolate, your brain was flooded with dopamine. It was very pleasurable, and that told your brain that chocolate was worth getting more of. From now on, whenever you even think about chocolate, your brain will release a little bit of dopamine that will motivate you to go get some more. And that's where cravings come from. If you've ever found yourself refreshing your social media feed endlessly, that was down to dopamine. Your brain is anticipating that each time you pull down on the screen, a new piece of interesting content will appear, so it releases dopamine to motivate you to keep swiping for those rewards. If you've ever stayed up late playing video games, that was dopamine. Your brain is anticipating the pleasure of finding new rewards and levels within the game, so you're motivated to keep playing to achieve those rewards. If you've ever dragged yourself to the gym when part of you didn't really want to go, that was dopamine that made you do it. Your brain is anticipating the endorphins from the workout and the pleasure you're going to feel from being in better shape, so you're motivated to go get that feel-good reward. You get the picture. Dopamine is what motivates us to achieve goals. Now, scientists have run tests on rats where they were able to switch off the dopamine receptors in their brains. This meant that the rats were no longer able to pick up the presence of dopamine, and this meant that they were no longer able to anticipate or experience any pleasure. They entered a joyless state called anhedonia. Remember that word, we're going to use it a lot in the remainder of this series. And indeed, such was their inability to anticipate or experience pleasure that they lost all motivation to achieve any goal. They became lazy. In fact, they even lost motivation to eat and drink. There was food in the cage, they could have had it, but they were so demotivated, they were so unable to anticipate that food would satisfy them that they couldn't be bothered to go get it. In fact, they died of starvation, those rats. That's how important dopamine is for spurring action. Now, it's important for us to know that we humans can also damage our own dopamine receptors, and one way that we can do that is through overstimulation. You see, your brain wants to maintain a chemical balance, an equilibrium, a stasis, and if you flood it with too much dopamine over an extended period of time, if you utterly bombard it with dopamine, it will respond by reducing the number of available receptors. It thinks, whoa, that was too much stimulation, I need to reduce my sensitivity to dopamine in future. So it reduces the number of available receptors. It becomes less sensitive to pleasure. It develops a numbed pleasure response. A person with less available receptors can't feel joy as easily. And just like the lab rats, a person in this condition will begin to experience anhedonia. Now, what kind of things are capable of producing this overstimulation to the point that it causes receptors to shut down and anhedonia to set in? Well, drugs are one big example. Drugs like cocaine and heroin raise our dopamine levels to about 300%. Once a person experiences that level of stimulation, it's all they can think about to go get some more. The cravings and the addiction begins to set in. Over an extended period of drug use, the brain will respond to the overstimulation by reducing available receptors. The addict will develop a numbed pleasure response. Of course, this means a couple of things. Firstly, it means that they will need harder and more intense drugs in future to experience the same level of high. And it also means that the addict won't feel pleasure as easily. He'll become joyless, demotivated, and will cease to derive pleasure from everyday experiences. If you've ever been in the presence of an addict, or if you've ever been an addict, then you'll know this is true. Nothing truly gives them pleasure anymore, except for the most intense drugs, because their brain has become numbed through extended overstimulation. Anhedonia is a terrible thing. People who have it experience higher levels of fatigue, insomnia, mood swings, memory loss, social anxiety, low libido, stress. It creates an inability to connect with others, an inability to focus, and can even lead to depression. And of course, with a numbed pleasure response, anhedonia means that a person is less motivated to go after goals. They become lazier. It's not just drugs though. Any overstimulation can cause anhedonia over extended periods of time. Sugar, for example, we've already talked about sugar earlier in this series. Sugar is an intense pleasure that floods the brain with dopamine. If you consume too much of it, however, your brain will react by reducing the number of available receptors. This means that you'll have a numbed pleasure response. You'll need sweeter and sweeter things to achieve the same level of satisfaction in future, and you'll develop the effects of anhedonia, fatigue, mood swings, and all the rest. More pertinently for this series, our dopamine receptors can be overstimulated through sexual activity. Indeed, an orgasm is the biggest non-drug blast of dopamine available, raising levels to around 200%, which is the same as an injection of morphine. Furthermore, unlike drugs or sugar, which will only keep dopamine peaked for a few minutes, sexual activity can, in theory at least, last for an infinite amount of time. There's just one requirement to that, and that requirement is novelty. Let's talk about rodents again. Scientists have discovered that when they put a male mouse into a cage with a female mouse, dopamine levels spiked in anticipation of sexual pleasure and they engaged in frequent sex. However, over time, the frequency began to drop and level out, and this indicated that dopamine levels were dropping in the male mouse. However, the scientists discovered that if they introduced a new female mouse into the cage, the male's dopamine levels would spike right back up again and he would re-engage in frequent sex. Indeed, if they kept introducing new females into the cage, the male's dopamine levels would literally never drop. He continued having sex with each new female mouse until he physically couldn't move with exhaustion. This is what's called the Coolidge effect. It just means that as long as the brain is experiencing novelty, it will keep dopamine levels high. Now there's much to say about this. Firstly, this explains why adulteries are so enticing. It's a dopamine spike. However, if you actually leave your spouse for that new person, you will eventually feel about them as you do about your current husband or wife. The dopamine levels will eventually drop, the thrill will eventually pass. Secondly, this explains why sex within marriage is entirely healthy and is extremely unlikely to ever cause anhedonia. Yes, a newly married couple will have spiked dopamine levels at the beginning of their relationship and they will have frequent sex, but gradually the novelty will wear off and those levels will drop and level out over time. They should eventually settle into a balanced frequency that is both pleasurable and causes no damage to their receptors. Of course, if the frequency drops too low, they may even appeal to the Coolidge effect by deliberately introducing more novelty into their sex life. A weekend away in a new location, dressing up, that kind of thing. The novelty will raise their dopamine levels again. However, the bottom line here is that it's extremely unlikely that married couples will have sex for hours and hours every day and for years on end. They will settle into a balanced frequency that is healthy. Indeed, even the act itself when two people are involved tends to have a time limit. The average length of time for sex, and yes, I did have to research this, according to polls is 7 to 13 minutes. When it comes to masturbation, however, these limits simply don't exist. There are no frequency limits. You don't need to wait for a partner to be in the mood. You can masturbate any time that you want. There are no duration limits. You don't need to worry about your partner getting bored or finishing before you. You can make it last for as long as you want. That could even mean hours. And finally, there are no novelty limits. If you're married, you have one spouse, but if you're masturbating, all you have to do is keep thinking of a new woman or a new sexual scenario, and it's possible to keep dopamine levels peaked indefinitely. Indeed, this is why internet pornography is so addictive and so dangerous right now. The user can just keep swiping for new images or new videos, and the endless novelty of internet porn will keep dopamine levels spiked for as long as the viewer likes. We'll talk more about that in the next episode, but the point for this video is just that masturbation like this will cause anhedonia. Your brain will start reducing receptors, your pleasure response will be numbed. A compulsive masturbator will find this out as time passes. They'll find that they need increasingly hard pornographic images and novel scenarios just to get the same levels of arousal. They'll be numb to normal pleasure, so they'll begin to regard normal women and normal sexual scenarios as being boring. They will be demotivated from going after normal women. They will likely begin to experience erectile dysfunction too, and they will begin to suffer all the other problems affiliated with anhedonia. Fatigue, insomnia, mood swings, memory loss, social anxiety, low libido, stress, an inability to connect with others, an inability to focus, and even depression. They will become demotivated, they will become lazy. Indeed, anhedonia is why all kinds of hedonism and indulgence ultimately doesn't work. It's common to believe that the way to happiness is indulging our pleasures. You see this with famous people in particular. Suddenly they have a lot of money and opportunities, so they think that happiness is found in indulging themselves in pleasures. But it doesn't work though. It works at first, it feels good at first, but overindulge in anything at all, and over time, there is only one outcome: a numbed pleasure response, a growing sense of dissatisfaction, emptiness, and despair. And again, you see that playing out in the lives of famous people over time. They feel like they should be living their best life because they have money and sex and drugs and alcohol and all this pleasure that they feel that they should be enjoying. But ultimately, the hedonism, the indulgence, causes anhedonia. They're actually messing up their brains. At the beginning of this episode, I asked if it was really possible for masturbation to demotivate men from going after real women. Could it really damage his life to that extent? The answer is yes, it really can. Masturbation has the potential to rewire your brain, to numb your ability to feel pleasure, to diminish your life, to affect future relationships, to cause anhedonia.